Hello, and welcome to the very first episode of something that I'm calling Character Corner. As you know, I'm an author, but in addition to being an author, I'm also an avid reader. I love reading fantasy. I read lots of things. Fantasy is probably what I read most. And I think one of the biggest reasons that I love fantasy so much is that the characters in fantasy are unique and colorful and full of surprises. And so oftentimes, as I've read different books, I'll find myself years later even thinking about one of the characters in the book. And as an author, I'm very interested in making sure that my own characters are memorable as well. And so I'm thinking about different things that stand out. What makes a character unique? What makes a character interesting? What draws you into a character? And so each week I thought that I would do an episode of Character Corner where I talk about a character that has been exciting to me or that I've enjoyed. And most often there'll be characters from books by other authors. Occasionally I'll do a character of one of my own books. Today, for the very first one, I thought that I would do the character Belgarath the Sorcerer. Now, maybe his name is pronounced Belgarath. I don't know. I sometimes say Belgarath, sometimes I say Belgarath. But he is a sorcerer that is found in a series of books written by the author David Eddings. And the first book series that he came out in is the Belgariad, which is a 5-book series. And then he's also in another 5-book series called the Malorean. And he was such a popular character that David Eddings wrote a book called, is that upside down? No, it's not upside down. David Eddings wrote a book called Belgarath the Sorcerer. Now that is supposed to be Belgarath right there, and that's his daughter Polgara. Now Polgara is she's 3,000 years old. And I guess I just kind of gave something away. Belgarath, one of the reasons I like Belgarath so much is that he's 7,000 years old. So that's pretty cool. As a young guy, when I was reading that, I thought, man, how would it be to be 7,000 years old? And what would you do with all that time? Well, Belgarath spent 100 years just studying a single mountain. That's one of the things he did. He also he spent over a decade being drunk. Don't know that that's real exciting. He did that because he lost his wife. But he's got this rich history of 1,000 years. Now, if you read the Belgariad, the book, the first series that Belgarath is in, let me warn you, it was written in the 80s. It's great, it's really fun, but it does have quite a lot of stereotypes and some cliches and stuff in it that were, I think, pretty common for that time period. Still, the characters in it are fun, and Belgarath, let's talk about him. Why did he stand out to me? Okay, well, I already said he's 7,000 years old. That's cool. But he also, unlike wizards like Gandalf, he's not shy about using his magic. Belgarath uses his magic sometimes when he probably shouldn't. He may be irritated with somebody and he'll use his magic just to prove a point to him. For example, one time he's trying to see the king in Tolnedra, and a guard, the Tolnedrans, they just think that Belgarath is a myth because, you know, his nickname is the Eternal Man because he's lived 7,000 years, and so a lot of them just think he's a myth. Well, he's trying to get in to see the king of Tolnedra, and this guard is being real arrogant and won't let him in. And Belgarath gets so irritated, he takes a twig and grows it into an apple tree. And if I remember right, he tells the guard that if he doesn't take care of that apple tree, he's going to be in big trouble next time Belgarath comes back around. So he does some funny things like that. He also dresses like a vagabond. He doesn't dress like a wizard. And part of the reason he does this is that he masquerades as a storyteller. He doesn't want everyone to know that he's this great, powerful wizard, so he goes around masquerading as a storyteller. And so much so that his clothing is so vagabondish and his hygiene habits are so poor that his daughter, Polgara, is constantly on him for the way he dresses and his hygiene. They love each other, but the way they show each other love is by kind of bickering and even sometimes insulting each other because they probably couldn't stand the thought of actually saying, I love you to one another. So I remember that one time Polgara was complaining about the fact that Belgarath is wearing boots that don't match. He's wearing a right boot from one pair of boots and a left boot from a different pair of boots. And when she asks him what he's doing, he just says, well, it's because this boot's more comfortable on my right foot and that boot's more comfortable on my left foot. And so that's why he wore mismatching boots. He's just pragmatic that way. It's another thing I liked about him. So Let me just tell you a couple quotes that I like from Belgarath. This one tells you a lot about him. He says, if you're going to maintain any kind of self-respect, you're going to have to keep secrets from yourself. I thought that's pretty funny. He also, let's see, there was another one that I really liked a lot. He said, I don't object to fulfilling prophecies as long as it doesn't inconvenience me too much. That's another thing I liked about Belgarath, is that he could be really lazy for a long period of time, but when it came down to doing the work of his master was a god named Aldor. Then he was all business. He didn't mind fulfilling prophecies as long as it wasn't too inconvenient to him. I'll give you one more quote from Belgarath. He said, have you ever noticed that brides are radiant, bridegrooms are nervous? Does that give you any inclination as to who really runs this world? So that's another fun quote from Belgarath. Anyway, I'd love to hear comments and feedback from you about your thoughts, whether or not you are even aware of this character. If not, and you're looking for a fun series to read, I'd recommend it, Belgarath, or actually the Belgariad by David Eddings. And I'd love to hear feedback from you on either on Facebook or through YouTube. I'm going to post this video on both. And I hope to hear from you and hope you'll watch the next series of Character Corner. All right, everybody, thanks, and we'll talk to you later.